The story begins in France, in the year 1897. A circus director rejects a bare act, finding it magnificent but impractical. The clown George Foutet presents his act, but the director is unimpressed. The director tells George his glory days are over. He calls his act dull and macabre, not what modern audiences want. He says people in the coming 20th century want something new and spectacular. Later, George talks to a friend, pretending he was the one who refused the offer. He asks if he can sleep at his friend's place, claiming he has a gig in Paris. At another circus, the ringmaster introduces a strange and incredible specimen. He presents the missing link, brought from the land of giant apes. The act is introduced as the Black King, Kananga. Kananga appears on stage, acting like a savage, growling at the audience. The ringmaster jokes that the monkey speaks their language better than Kananga does. After the show, George watches Kananga from a distance. George approaches Kananga, complimenting his performance. He introduces himself as a clown looking for a partner to renew his act. Later, the performers are gambling with dice. Kananga jokes that in Africa, they don't play with dice, but with the teeth of white men. George and Kananga begin to practice together. George challenges Kananga, "Alright, make me laugh." George critiques Kananga's movements, saying they are different but uncontrolled. He explains that as a spectator, he feels disconnected from the performance. George explains the need for surprise, a contrast between expectation and reality. He defines their roles, George as the white clown, and Kananga as the Auguste, the fool. For the first time, they will perform as a duo, two different but inseparable sides of a coin. George learns that Kananga does not have any identity papers. George pitches the new clown duo to the skeptical circus director. He argues that they have nothing to lose and should let the audience decide. That night, the ringmaster exceptionally introduces two clowns for the price of one. Their act begins, with George playing a musical instrument. Kananga, the Auguste, clumsily interrupts the performance. George, the white clown, slaps Kananga for his foolishness. The physical comedy escalates, with George kicking Kananga in the rear. The audience erupts in laughter and applause. The act is a hit. The director, Delvaux, is thrilled and tells them they are hired. He says they need a new name for Kananga, suggesting they think of one. Back in practice, George teaches Kananga how to properly react to a slap. He demonstrates the full body reaction needed for the comedic effect. A new poster is unveiled for their act. It introduces Kananga by his new stage name, Chocolate. Chocolate practices writing his new name, learning to read and write. He proudly finishes writing Chocolate on the chalkboard. As their success grows, George and Chocolate ask Delvaux for a raise. Delvaux puts them off, claiming the circus is in debt and asking for patience. George tells Chocolate to be quiet, assuring him he has big plans for their future. A well-dressed man enters their dressing room, introducing himself. He heard rumors of a white and black clown duo and came to see for himself. George introduces the man as Joseph Aller, the director of the Nouveau Cirque in Paris. Aller praises their act for its audacity and true originality. He gets straight to the point, he wants them to work for him in Paris. He believes a white and black duo will be a guaranteed success in the capital. Chocolate boldly asks how much a clown earns in Paris. Aller presents them with a very generous financial offer. Chocolate says goodbye to his love interest, Camille. He promises that once he is settled in Paris, he will send for her. She tells him to take care of himself, reminding him he is not an object. The other circus performers wish Chocolate a safe journey and good luck. Upon arriving in Paris, Chocolate is amazed and says, "I feel I'm going to love this city." They stand before the magnificent Nouveau Cirque, their new workplace. Aller greets them and insists on punctuality, stating the show starts precisely at 8:30. He warns them that in Paris, they will not get a second chance. He tells them the house is sold out, with 1,500 people waiting. Backstage, George runs into his estranged wife, who is also a performer. Their Paris debut begins with their signature routine. The act is a resounding success with the large, sophisticated Parisian audience. They receive a standing ovation at the end of their performance. In the following months, Foutet and Chocolate become the toast of Paris. Newspaper headlines praise them as the kings of clowns. At a press event, Chocolate is asked a question, but George is absent. A journalist asks if it's true that he is the target of pranks at the circus. Another asks about rumors that he is a gambler who loses large sums of money every night. Chocolate begins spending his money lavishly, while George remains frugal. Chocolate questions George's lifestyle, asking what he does with all his money. The famous Lumiere brothers arrive to film their act. Aller explains that this new invention, the cinematograph, could attract a new audience. The duo performs their routine for the camera. During a performance, police officers arrive for an identity check. Chocolate explains he has a work permit, but they demand identity papers, which he lacks. The police arrest Chocolate and drag him away. As he's taken, he begs George not to abandon him. In the jail cell, the guards order him to take off his clown costume. They humiliate him, saying a black man is always a black man. Another prisoner recognizes him as the artist who gets beaten by a white man every night. In the prison yard, Chocolate meets Victor, who is imprisoned for his political ideas. Victor tells him that a black man must know his place and bow down. He tells Chocolate not to expect anything from anyone and that they must defend themselves. Victor says the white audience laughs because Chocolate affirms his status as the good Negro. Chocolate defends himself, saying he is an artist who dances and performs. Victor counters that being an artist means breaking barriers and setting an example. A publicist shows a new ad featuring a racist caricature of Chocolate. Chocolate is visibly upset, but the publicist claims it's just a stereotype. George intervenes, sketching a new idea for the poster. His version shows Chocolate jumping for joy on his own, not being kicked. Chocolate makes one final demand, my face, with a human form. George and Chocolate have a major argument over Chocolate's lateness and attitude. Chocolate complains about the pay disparity, saying George earns double. George angrily reminds Chocolate that he discovered him when he was playing a cannibal. George calls Chocolate a puppet and a punching bag, questioning what else he can do. He tells Chocolate that without him, he is nothing. Chocolate tells Victor he wants respect. Victor gives Chocolate a copy of Shakespeare's Othello. He tells him that in France, Othello has never been played by a black actor. Be the first, my friend, he says. Then you will be an artist. Chocolate tells Aller he will no longer play the role of the stupid black man. He decides to pursue acting in the theater to be taken seriously. George is furious, reminding Chocolate that he pulled him out of the mud. He tells him his name is Chocolate, and that's how he became famous. Aller warns him that he doesn't think the public is ready to accept him as a serious actor. Chocolate meets with theater director Monsieur Gimier to propose playing Othello. Gimier notes that the role has never been played by a person of color in France. When signing the contract, Chocolate asks not to be introduced to the cast as Chocolate. He says, I want to leave Chocolate behind. During rehearsals, Chocolate struggles with the formal stage directions. The director scolds him, we are not in a circus. The stage is not round. He also has great difficulty memorizing the Shakespearean lines. Meanwhile, his gambling creditors are searching for him to collect their money. George's wife, Marie, finds Chocolate's new partner, also named Marie. She tells her how Chocolate abandoned George at the height of their success for a whim. She confesses that George also suffered and felt terribly alone in his profession. On opening night, the play begins. Chocolate delivers Othello's final, tragic monologue. But the audience, expecting the clown, begins to laugh and heckle him. The performance is a disaster, and the play fails. After the show, his creditors corner him in an alley. They brutally beat him for failing to pay his debts. The story jumps forward to the year 1917. An aged and sick Chocolate is seen performing in a small, dreary circus. A child in the audience remarks that he can't be the real Chocolate, who died long ago. In a hospital, a doctor tells Marie that Chocolate's lung lesions are irreversible. He says with tuberculosis this advanced, the battle is already lost. An older George Foudet arrives at the hospital to visit his former partner. On his deathbed, Chocolate whispers to George, it's over. He says, I am Chocolate. He laments that he tried to change his skin, but couldn't. George comforts him, calling him by his real name, Raphael, and telling him he was a prince. George tearfully tells him, together, we were kings. He shows Chocolate an old photograph of them together in their prime. An epilogue states that Raphael Padilla died on November 4, 1917. His name and legacy were forgotten for a long time. With George Foudet, he revolutionized comedy by introducing the White Clown and Auguste duo. If you want a recap of your favorite movies and shows, comment below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. See you next time, everyone.